let's talk about sustainable travel accommodation, which is actually a topic I found quite difficult to approach, not because there's a lack of options, but actually it's nearly the opposite. It means quite a lot of different things and it's difficult to pin down. So for example, if you look at Costa Rica, where I currently am, but also which is the home, so to speak, of ecotourism, when you look at or search for sustainable travel accommodation in Costa Rica, this is what you find.
Firstly, you find that a search for sustainable accommodation will automatically try to take you to the so-called eco-lodges and eco-hotels. I tend to be a bit wary of eco-lodges, mostly because most of them appear so expensive, but I also wonder a lot of the time what actually makes them eco.
So when you look into these hotels and lodges, you'll more often than not find that they brand themselves as eco based on one or a combination of three key factors. Firstly, bringing you closer to nature and or the environment that they are within. Secondly, they might offer tours or activities, which is all about community or environmental learning. And thirdly, it's about how they run as a business in terms of trying to limit their own resource use and trying to be as efficient as possible within their hotel operations. And these are all great things. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of these factors. The bit that makes me uncertain is the fact that I have been staying in hostels and other places which do most of these things, if not more, at a fraction of the price, and they don't refer to themselves as eco or sustainable in any way. It's just how they are. It's just how they run their businesses.
I will say that not all eco-accommodation is expensive. This isn't just about price. If you look at sites like EcoBnB or Book It Green, which specialise in helping you find sustainable accommodation, there is a much wider price range, even some closer to my backpacking budget. But the choice always seems a little bit limited. For example, I'm going to Guatemala next, so what are my options?
So basically, what actually makes travel accommodation sustainable? That has been my sticking point and why I found this topic quite a challenge, because the answer seems to be everything and nothing all at the same time. And how do I explore that within my 6-month trip? So what I've decided to do is I will highlight any hotels or hostels that I stay at which I feel particularly meet or exceed the point of sustainable travel accommodation. So perhaps they meet one or more of those three factors. So the bringing you closer to nature, or some form of community or environmental outreach, or how they run their business and hotel or hostel environmentally speaking. So in light of that, let me tell you about my time at the Lost and Found Hostel in Panama, where I stayed 3 nights. So this place definitely targets the closeness to nature side of things. It is remote, very, very remote. So much so, in fact, that you have to walk 15-20 minutes up a fairly steep path with all your stuff to get to it.
And cardio exercise. That begins here as well.
It's in the middle of the mountains and forest, it's beautiful views all around, it's restful, and somehow it manages to strike an interesting balance between peaceful and social. Given that there is nowhere else to go, for food and drinks for example, it's actually really easy to meet other people staying there. They even have a little bar there. What I like the most is the trails you can walk around. These are not the paved and gravelled trails you often find purpose-built for tourists to not injure themselves. These walks really make you feel like you're trekking through the jungle. Needless to say, it really brought out my inner explorer. Again, they've managed to create an interesting balance between feeling remote enough from the beaten path and yet easy enough that you're not ever worried about getting lost. They've even gamified some of the trails by creating an Indiana Jones treasure hunt where you can solve clues to win a prize at the end. They also provide some really great information on other nearby trips you can take. So with some newfound friends, we went to the Celestine waterfalls, where we had to scramble up the stream to find the falls. We were the only ones there and it definitely was an adventure. Again, it really brought out my inner explorer.
So why does the Lost and Found Hostel meet the sustainability X factor for me? Well, from my point of view, this was very much about the nature and the environment side of things. This was a great place to just get away from it all, to reconnect with the environment, just to appreciate the beautiful landscapes, the great wildlife around, and really make the most of that. And this place definitely exceeds at that. I wouldn't say it necessarily focuses on the other sides of sustainable accommodation. So for example, from a local culture or community point of view, perhaps didn't get so much of that apart from some yummy Panamanian food. But most of the other people there were foreign tourists, a lot of backpackers. So that was great from a social point of view, but maybe not necessarily from a local community point of view. And from a resource use side of things, there was definitely some practices that were evident there, particularly around water use, making sure guests limit the use of water that they use. That becomes nearly a necessity when you're so far away from everything and so remote. So it didn't come out as a standout sustainable accommodation factor from my point of view. But would I consider this sustainable accommodation? Yes, definitely. If anything, just for that return to nature side of things. Be good to know what you think. Definitely let me know your thoughts on it. In the meantime, I will keep an eye out for any other sustainable travel accommodation which I can look out for and investigate and research a little bit more. But next up for me is Guatemala, where I fly out to tomorrow. So until the next one, see you later.